Mr. Yatsenyuk, the US and the European Union want to put more pressure on Russia by extending their sanctions. Is that really enough, or do you feel that the West should do more to support Ukraine?
The idea of stepping up sanctions is to urge Russia to stick to its international obligation and to execute the international law. The US administration just announced a new sanctions over Russian individuals and legal entities. So we do believe that in case if the international community, the US and the EU and Ukraine will act in concert, we can bring Russia back to negotiations and urge them to execute the international law.
So you are quite optimistic that those sanctions could help?
I have to be optimistic. This is the only chance to survive for my country and for my government. And we do everything we can to stabilize the situation in Ukraine. And we strongly believe that this is our joint aim of the entire international community, to make Russia not a gangster, but to make Russia a country that sticks to international standards and that meets international agreements.
As we speak, pro-Russian separatists are still in control of several towns in eastern Ukraine. At the same time, Russian troops are just waiting just across the border, ready to combat. And your government is in a very difficult situation. If you do nothing, you look weak and helpless. And if you do use force, you might risk a Russian invasion. So what are you going to do?
Let me rephrase you. This is not pro-Russian separatists. This is Russian-led terrorists, and this is the right definition. Ukraine already started a counter-terrorist operation, and you're absolutely right, saying that we are in a trap. On the one hand, we need to protect civilians. On the other hand, in case if we start a comprehensive and a large-scale counter-terrorist operation, this would lead to a relatively high death toll, including civilian casualties. And what these terrorists did, they captured a number of OEC observers, and they used them as hostages for buyback operations. So we today stick to our aim, and the aim is to protect civilians. But despite this, our military forces already isolated Slavyansk and another strongholds of these terrorists. And the key problem is not how to hold the counter-terrorist operation. The key problem is how to cut Russia from the supply of these terrorists. If Russia steps back, if Russia condemns these terrorists, we will tackle the problem with the terrorists on Ukrainian soil.
But what are your next steps?
Our next steps I already mentioned. Our counter-terrorist operation is in progress. We started talks with these kidnappers in order to release OEC observers, but despite this, we need to protect civilians.
A few days ago, you accused Russia of wanting to start a third world war. It was an exaggeration, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't, because look what's going on. Russia already started it. But the war can get a different form. This is not like the previous wars. But this is the war that Russia started 10 years ago, when they first tried to bypass Ukraine with the new energy routes. Then they turned the trade screw over the bilateral trade with Georgia, Moldova, Ukraine. Then they stopped NATO expansion with the fierce intervention and even invasion into domestic affairs of a number of countries, including Ukraine. Then they grabbed a part of Georgia. Then they conquered Crimea. How could I name this? Isn't a war, or it's just a peaceful process?
No, but how could this turn into a world war? Because NATO has basically made it clear that it is not going to support Ukraine with troops if Russia invades.
I will reiterate once again. There are different types of wars. You believe that the war is just to shoot in each other, and I believe that we have a new types of wars: cyber war, political war, diplomatic war, and the clandestine war, which Russia already made on Ukrainian soil and in Crimea. Have you seen these green guys with no insignia on their uniforms? Russia always objected, saying that this is not the Russian military. But only 3 days ago, President Putin confirmed that these were Russian soldiers. So I am talking about a new type of war which Russia already waged.